All right, we are off and running. Once again, it's the New York Giants Squad Show. My name is Jay Berman, and welcome to the New York Giants Squad Show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. We waited and waited and waited for free agency to begin. It finally has, and it has not disappointed.
I'm Patricia Traina, Locked On Giants, and we're starting to learn about what John Harbaugh expects and envisions for this team.
I'm Mark Collins, two-time Super Bowl champion, NFL free agency. It's kind of like Shark Week.
Let's go, Big Blue. It's the New York Giants Squad. Everything New York Giants every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the G-Men. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. The Giants Squad Show starts now.
The all-important first New York Giants Squad Show after free agency begins. Alongside Patricia and Mark, my name is Jay. As we said, it's the New York Giants Squad Show, and it has begun, folks. We've been talking about it forever, and as we said, it has begun, and we'll start with Patricia in the leadoff spot with perhaps the splash of the day, and that is at the tight end position. Take it away, Patricia.
Yeah, the Giants landing Isaiah Likely, and I'll tell you, that's a very, very telling signing. And it's telling because, yes, the Giants needed to replenish tight end depth, despite the fact that they had signed Chris Manhertz to start the day off. But the more important thing is Isaiah Likely can be a big slot receiver for the Giants. And that's something, that the Giants, if you look at what Matt Nagy has done in his prior offenses, he tends to go for the bigger, more physical slot receivers. And how long has it been, by the way, since the Giants have had a big physical slot receiver, particularly in the red zone where it really counts the most? So Isaiah Likely, yes, going to be a tight end. He's going to be part of that 12 personnel that I suspect the Giants are going to run a lot of. But I look for him to kind of step into that Wan'Dale Robinson role and be an upgrade as far as size, as far as physicality goes, and hopefully as far as production.
I've seen him play firsthand. They come to Kansas City, or went to visit Baltimore. He reminds me of Shannon Sharp. He's one of those guys. He's one of those tweeners who can move around. He can play inside, outside, but mostly in that slot position. He's very good and fast. Great hands. And he has a little mean streak on him too. So he'll get after you. I like the signing. I love the signing. That's telling me that the Giants are going to be a little bit more explosive, starting with the inside out. It depends on who we get on the outside, but I think it's a fantastic signing.
All right, he gets 3 years, $40 million, and obviously, as we said, the primary tight end now moving forward for the New York Giants. We asked this question multiple times over the last couple of weeks, and that is, how many Ravens are too many Ravens? So, Patricia, here's the very first one, and surprise, surprise, he comes from the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, look, I mean, as long as they're good players and they're going to fit what they want to do, I don't care where they come from. They can come from the Eagles, they can come from the Cowboys, and you know how I feel about the Eagles and the Cowboys. So just so long as they're good players, and look, I trust John Harbaugh in terms of what he envisions, in terms of what he wants. And, look, coaches do this all the time. When they go to a new team, they bring some of their old guys with them to set the locker room culture, or because they know what they have. And I can understand the reasoning behind it. You want to hit the ground running. So why, waste time training somebody or, trying to figure out what you've got? You want to hit the ground running. So I am not surprised that, several Ravens players or several players with ties to the Ravens under Harbaugh. And by the way, we could throw in our friend Jermaine Eluemunor, who started with the Ravens under Harbaugh, are on this Giants roster.
Well, that's how it is. I mean, all the coaches do it. And, you do it in business as well. You bring the people who you're comfortable with, and they could teach others how to run your program. I don't mind it at all. I mean, whether they come from the Baltimore Ravens or the Kansas City Chiefs or Titans, whoever, as long as they can play. And so far, and we'll talk about this later down the road, is it an upgrade at certain positions? And so far, start with the tight end. I think it's a hell of an upgrade at the tight end position.
All right, we'll get to another Raven coming up, but first let's focus in on the defense. And obviously, as we've been discussing on the New York Giants Squad Show at length, Giants needed a big-time linebacker right in the middle. Tremaine Edmunds comes over from the Bears, and I guess he's the guy, Patricia.
Yeah, and they didn't have to trade for him. How cool is that?
Right.
I remember he was given permission to seek a trade, and the Giants were patient, and they got their man. And you know what? A lot of good things have been said about Tremaine Edmunds. He's still a very, young player, still very productive. I think he's had 100 tackles every year he has played. He's a leader in the middle now. Coverage is supposed to be his specialty, which is something that maybe the Giants were lacking. Now, one of the scouting reports I got is that he's maybe not as physical against the run, but hey, man has had over 100 tackles every year he's played. So how bad could he possibly be? So I like this signing. I expected them to go for a veteran in the middle. He's going to get the green dot. He's going to be the quarterback of that defense. And look, for those of you who are saying, well, what about Sonny Styles or the draft? That's not going to preclude the Giants from taking a linebacker in the draft. They need guys for down the line. So Edmunds, I think, they got themselves a really good voice, a really good leader, and I'm excited to see how he's going to fit into this defense.
I don't mind Edmunds if he plays in the middle. That tells me they're going to run a 4-3. I don't mind him in the middle. Now, if the Giants do draft Styles, I see Styles going on the outside, not in the middle. Edmunds is 6'4", about 6'4", 250. They get Styles in the draft. That's a 6'6" guy, 245, more bit of on outside. But I digress. I like Edmunds in the middle. I thought he was decent in coverage, pretty decent in coverage. Not the most physical, dominating inside backer, but he's productive, still young and can play. I like it. Tells me I think the Giants will still get a linebacker at 5 pick, but I like it. So far, so good.
Yeah, John Harbaugh is no stranger to having that big beast right in the middle of things, calling the plays, and as Patricia said, being the quarterback of the defense. So likely aside, Tremaine Edmunds, very important piece that you just kind of felt like John Harbaugh was leaning towards, Patricia.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, if you're soft in the middle of your defense, you might as well just pack it in. I mean, you've got to be stout up the middle. And where have the Giants been weakest on defense? Up the middle. I mean, they've been exploited up the middle. So they're taking steps to reinforce that. And, the linebackers, hopefully they'll be better off with their run fits moving forward against the run, because the run defense, I don't have to tell you guys, that run defense has been a problem for this team for the longest time. Now, I don't think they're done with plugging up holes in the middle. I mean, I think they could probably use some additional safety reinforcement. I definitely think they can add another defensive lineman. I saw Wan'Dale Robinson just got released by Carolina. I'd love to see them try and reunite with him because he played well when he was here. But, they're solidifying the middle of that defense, and it's about time.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have no choice. When you're one of the worst rush defenses in the NFL, you got to start. And they start in the middle. So I like it. We'll see what they do. Let's see if we get another lineman in here to do something. But you got to stop the run. You got to stop the run up the middle. You got to build up what the Giants are doing right now. I've seen you're starting up the middle. You got the linebacker, got a safety, and you got a corner. So I get what they're trying to do on the free agency part. We'll see what they do with the draft, how to get reinforcements.
All right, we knew he was going, meaning John Harbaugh, redo the special teams, and that's exactly what they did, at least on the punting side. Gillen gone, Jordan Stout in. So this is a key piece. And John Harbaugh saw from the outside looking in, special teams stunk for the Giants for a long time, and he's fixing it, Patricia.
About time. How many times, everydayers have heard me say that the Giants special teams just haven't done a consistently good job of flipping the field. And, Jamie Gillen, who's no longer with the team, just inconsistent. You just never knew where the punts were going to go. The guy he was probably the worst pooch punter in the NFL. And you look at Jordan Stout, who this past year was an All-Pro, a first-team All-Pro, and a Pro Bowler. Jordan Stout finished, I think, in the top 10, both in punts placed inside the 20, net punting yards, and there was one other stat that's escaping me. I think it was touchbacks, I think, is the other stat. I'm sorry. It was starting field positions off of a punt. The Giants, on the other hand, finished 28th or lower in those 3 categories.
Ugh.
So, look, I know that special teams is 11 guys, but it starts with the punter. And if the punter is going to, you never know what you're going to get. If you're going to get a shank or you're going to get a ball that goes out of bounds or whatever, you got to give your guys a chance. And that's where it starts. And I just don't feel like the Giants have had that the last year or so. And, oh, by the way, somebody was saying to me, well, Jamie Gillen kicked off 40 times. So, his leg was tired. I'm sorry. There were a couple of years ago, he kicked 93 times, which is almost as many times as he kicked this past year. And he had better numbers. So his leg wasn't tired. When you have one job, I don't want to hear, oh, his leg is tired.
I agree. Well, Stout's a good punter. I mean, and plus, once again, Baltimore and John knows him, knows he could kick in the cold weather and all this other stuff. It's very productive. I don't want to waste too much time on talking about punters and kickers because that's not my specialty. But I'm glad if he's productive and I think I could have done better than last year's punter. But, I'm glad we have somebody who could kick and put teams inside the 20. So that's a good thing to do.
All right. As far as the numbers, we told you Likely got 3 years, 40. Edmunds got 3 years, 36. And Stout, obviously a smaller deal, 3 years, $12.5 million. We did not expect a huge splash money-wise, obviously, because of the cap situation. Dawn Aponte, I am not, Patricia. That being said, it seems like some of these deals were pretty good for the Giants. They did not overpay.
No, they didn't. I think they were fair with a lot of the deals. Now, I'm still gathering data on how the contracts are breaking down. That's just now starting to come out. I have yet to see if any of the contracts have voidable years. I think the Giants, if they use that mechanism, they're going to use it sparingly. But, then again, they don't really have any contracts that you can sit there and say, wow, that's a big, big chunk of change, like what Tyler Linderbaum got from the Raiders. That's a case where you probably want to use voidable years. So they're being smart about it from what I can see so far. And they're also being fair. I mean, there's just one contract that I'm maybe scratching my head a little bit over the structure. And that was the one that Micah McFadden got because they didn't take advantage of a special 4-year type of rule where they can give the guy a raise and it only counts for a part of the salary cap. But, I digress a little bit there. But overall, I would say they're doing a pretty good job with not overpaying. And from what I can see, how they've structured the contracts that I've seen so far.
Well, the guys got 3-year deals, right? Most of them. Yeah, you can really work with a 3-year contract under the cap. And that's where the Giants are being smart by doing that. No 4 or 5 year deals. So if you got a 4 or 5 year contract, then those voidable years come into play. But with the 3 years, that can be manipulated through the whole season, through the whole contract, really. So it works out pretty well. The sign-up bonuses that most of these guys got were pretty decent, very fair. I tend to think with the Giants salary cap issues they had, that money is very comparable to where they were with under the cap. So it works out well. The players are happy. The coaching staffs are happy with it too. So, and that's all that counts.
Yeah, and obviously this was the first opportunity cap-wise for Dawn Aponte to take advantage of her new gig, and it looks like she did that, Patricia. Job well done.
Yeah, so far so good. I mean, I don't know what the cap space is available. I'm sure there's going to be more cuts and there's going to be restructures, but what people have to remember, they need about 10 to 12 million to get through the season. So even if they clear out another 30 million, you've got to take 10 to 12 off the top of that 30 million because you need that for the season. So the Giants, they're spending within their means. They're not, printing funny money, if you will, which is what Dave Gettleman did, I think, in his last year. And that's why they got into cap hell the way they did. So far, I like the approach that they're taking. It's measured. It's not outrageous. If somebody is out of their market price, you're like, okay, you know what? You're out of our market. good luck wherever you go.
Well, with the salary cap, the teams have to be under the cap by March 11th for the start of free agency. They got to be under the cap. After free agency, after March 11th, and during the season, that it fluctuates. You could go past whatever. There's not a big deal. But before the free agency start, every team must be under. Now, I think San Francisco got in trouble last year because they were way over the cap, but they did some crazy stuff, and I think they lost a draft pick. But once free agency start, March 11th, every team must be under the cap as free agency goes, and the season starts, whatever. Sometimes team could go over and come back, whatever. But it always works out. It always amazes me how these teams find this monopoly money to make things work. There is some stiff penalties in the NFL being over the cap, but it's not really, you can lose draft picks to a point, but you got to be really stupid. But it's not like baseball, right? It's not like baseball with their luxury tax. No one cares about that. Football's a little bit more structured, but once the season starts after March, free agency, teams will move around a little bit more money. Some will be over the cap, but they'll be in compliance with the league, and it always works out.
All right, that was a fast 16 and a half minutes right off the top. And, of course, those were the guys that were coming in from other teams. We also have players that are leaving, and we have to discuss that coming up next. All right, let's tell you about TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. Again, head to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. All right, we are back after one block. It's now section number 2 of the New York Giants Squad Show alongside Patricia and Mark. My name is Jay. There was another Ravens signing. In fact, there were 2 defensive back signings, Ardarius Washington and Greg Newsome. So obviously Giants paying attention for a short while, at least, to the secondary, Patricia.
Yeah, I think the Ardarius signing, that was to replace Dane Belton. I think a lot of what Ardarius Washington does kind of, is what Dane Belton did in the offense. But the one that I'm intrigued to learn more about is Greg Newsome. Now, Greg Newsome was a first-round pick for the Cleveland Browns. He was a starter during his time. Now, they traded him to Jacksonville, and I think he had some injury issues along the way, which might have, put a dent in the expectations and his production. But I'm intrigued by that signing. I think his deal was for 1 year, $8 million, which I believe you can consider starter money. And it also tells you kind of what they're maybe thinking as far as Deonte Banks is concerned and what role he might have on this team. So, I need to do a little bit more, work on Newsome because admittedly I'm not as familiar with his tape. Haven't had a chance to look at it. But just looking at the money, I have a feeling that he's going to be, right there in that mix for that CB2 role. Now, I don't know. Is he a CB1? I don't know that. I've got to do some more study on him. But the Giants needed cornerbacks. They desperately needed to replace Cor'Dale Flott, who, they were close to re-signing, but at the last minute, Tennessee came swooping in with a better offer and a better plan for him. So I'm glad that they addressed that position, but I think they still need more at that cornerback spot.
Yeah, Jarvis Washington, he's a good player. Little small, but productive. He's very fast, very quick. He's not afraid to hit either. He's not afraid to tackle. I like the signing. And as far as Newsome, you know, good player, good size, 1-year contract. So a 1-year deal tells me a lot. First of all, I think the Giants are spending their money. They're putting money on 1-year deals to be strategic because they don't have a lot of money to spend. So if you get production for 1 year, you better find somebody else to come in and play during the draft. I just saw this popped up on my ticker. Art Green just signed another corner, just is back. Another 1-year deal. So a lot of one and done guys, but if they're productive, you want to try to win now. This is what you got to do. You got Newsome, he can play well, first round pick, very productive. So hopefully it works out. You know, Darius, like I said, small guy, 5'8", but he can hit, he can cover, he's smart, and that's what you want to do. That's what you need. Somebody on the back end who can line people up and can make plays.
It's interesting because, as expected, the areas we thought the Giants would be, going for, they have. Obviously, tight end, obviously, defense in the middle, obviously, special teams, and now Patricia in the secondary as well. John Harbaugh and company going right after the things they need to go right after.
Almost all of it. I mean, that Art Green signing, by the way, I think was more for special teams because Art Green, I think, was one of their better gunners last year. But the one position they haven't really addressed, and I keep screaming that they do something about it. I know they have tried. They got to get guards. Call in the guards here because they don't have guards. You know, they lost Austin Schlottmann. He signed with Tennessee. He was a backup guard center. Azudu's not coming back. Evan Neal's not coming back. I don't know. Greg Van Roten is coming back. Hopefully he resigns. I think he signed someplace, but, you know, based on a tweet he put out, but I don't know where. I mean, they don't have guards. They have Jay Kubas right now, who's penciled in at right guard, and they have John Runyon Jr. at left guard. They need depth on the interior. And, you know, I had to laugh because all these people who were saying, oh, they got to go and they got to upgrade center. No, put 2 good guards on either side of John Michael Schmitz, who hasn't been horrible, and I think you can get by with him. So that's the one spot. And I know they tried to get Elijah Vera Tucker, and there was some hold up or hang up, I should say, with the length of the deal, I think is what they were talking about. But right now, they need to concentrate on getting interior linemen because they don't have that.
Yeah, well, it's day one. So, you know, this whole thing will shake out. It'll shake out. And, you know, day one is always it's like Shark Week. It's a frenzy, right? Everybody's going crazy. Oh, this person leaves, all this stuff. We get it. But when things settle down and when some monies start to dry up a little bit and musical chairs is free agency, the chairs are the music starting to stop and people got to sign, that's where you're going to find your production and the players that you need. Offensive line, the Giants they'll find it. There's some guys. I know the Chiefs got a couple of guys that I know the Giants are talking to. So, you know, Caliendo was one of them. He's a guard, I think, in Kansas City. So I know the Giants would like to have him. But it'll work itself out. From what I've seen so far, how this is working out, how I'm thinking that the Giants are looking at, to me, it's like they're stockpiling free agents on the defensive side, right? And maybe leaning to get draft offensively, you think? I mean, because defense is easy to fix. You get some free agents who can play now, which they have, guys who can play now. Newsome, Williams, those Edmunds, those guys can play now. You can plug them in and play. Offense may take a little time, so if you draft a receiver or offensive lineman or whatever, it'll take those times to ramp it up. But on defense, you got to stop people first. So that's what I'm thinking by some of the moves they've been making.
All right, so we talked about the incoming Giants, or soon to be incoming. There were some defections as well. Bellinger, Flott, Belton, Schlottmann, and obviously Wan'Dale. We'll get to Wan'Dale later. But in regards to those first 4, 3 of them went to Tennessee, Patricia.
Anybody surprised? No, I'm not. Although I have to admit, I am a little surprised with Bellinger, only because when Brian Dable was here, Bellinger was an afterthought. So I was kind of surprised that he went to Tennessee, if I'm being honest with you. I knew he might leave. I was hoping he'd stay, but I kind of figured, you know, he might go. But Tennessee with Dable, who again in that offense, they drafted over him. They traded for Waller, to make that work. I mean, that was a little bit of a surprise, but the fact that, 3 or 4 guys now have gone down to Tennessee, I'm not surprised.
It's a job. You gotta work. Gotta get that money too. And I know Flott got paid. I bet you he was more shocked than I was. I didn't think he'll get that big money on the open market. But I guess one man's trash is another man's treasure. That's what they say. But he was a good player. But man, he got big money. So did Robinson. Those guys got paid, and they went to a place where a coach knows them. There's some comfort in that as well. And no tax state, so that works out well too.
It's funny, we talked about too many Ravens. Brian Dable and company and Robert Saleh have no problems with too many Giants.
But not enough Jets, I don't think.
So there's still plenty of time left. So it's just kind of funny because Dable was fired. They kicked Dable to the curb, and now he wants his boys back, I guess. But again, too many Ravens in New York, perhaps too many Giants in Nashville, Patricia.
That's what happens. I mean, I'm not surprised. I expected it. So, look, I wish those guys well. I every single one of those guys who made the jump to Tennessee, I can honestly say I had good working relationships with all of them. Some of them I'll miss, maybe a little more than others, but it doesn't surprise me at all. I expected it. And like you said, just as John Harbaugh is bringing Ravens up here by the boatloads, the Ravens flock, if you will. Giants are flocking down to Tennessee.
It's amazing how it always baffled me how some teams see a value in you where other team doesn't. The team you just left, they're like, I don't give a crap. You get out here, we want you. Another team, we'll take you. And some overpay, and some people pay exactly what they're worth. But you're only worth what someone's willing to pay for you. And I'm glad that Wan'Dale and Flott, those guys, got their big payday, because that's a big payday. And that's money they would never made with the Giants. So I'm glad that I was one of those guys who sued for free agency. Because without that, those guys would have been stuck in purgatory and not have the chance to move anywhere. So I'm always happy for the guys to get paid.
All right. Obviously, there's more to be done. This is literally day 2, just over 24 hours since we officially started. That being said, the new year begins tomorrow. What is next in free agency? I know Patricia is going to focus in on the offensive line, the interior offensive line. But again, what's next in free agency, Patricia?
Well, obviously guards. Defensive line depth would be nice. I mean, they just, they've got to build that up. Raheem Nunez-Roches is, I don't think, coming back. I don't think DJ Davidson is coming back. They've got to get some guys on that defensive line, some more depth. Now, I think they'll be okay with Darius Alexander. He was starting to turn the corner, but you need some more depth on that defensive line. So that, the trenches has to be the focus over these next, day and a half or however much time is left. I mentioned A'Shawn Robinson in the last segment. I would love to see the Giants reach out to him and bring him back for that defensive line, because he actually, when Leonard Williams got traded, I think A'Shawn Robinson was the one who stepped in and plugged that hole and got them by the rest of the season. On the offensive line, why isn't anybody talking about Kevin Zeitler and reaching back out to him and bringing him back? The guy's still playing at a high enough level at guard, and he plays right guard. So why not, I don't know, maybe they have, and he said, no, thank you. You guys cut me once. You're not going to do it again. But I have not heard his name attached to the Giants at all. And if they haven't reached out to him, my question is why,
Oh, that's a good question. But, like I said, day 1, day 2, all this stuff is going to settle down. And I think the Giants know exactly what their needs are, how to build the team, how to structurally, whether it's defense first, linebacker, safeties, corners on the defense. Then let's move to the offense. Let's look at offensive line. Let's look at receivers, look at running back. All that stuff will come into play, especially in the upcoming days. Believe it or not, this free agency period, it is musical chairs. And as a former player, you know when dollars start drying up and that salary cap starts to shrink, you better get your ass into on a team. That's what every player's thinking. So if the Giants are looking at a player and this player's gonna, I'm gonna wait for a better offer, and all of a sudden that player takes the spot that the Giants would look for you to have, and all of a sudden that Giants is off the roster for you, you better find the spot. So give it another couple of days, and then you'll see things start selling out. The Giants know exactly who they want to go after and what positions they want to fill.
All right, we are halfway home on this Tuesday, immediately following the beginning of free agency, of course, which was yesterday. The league year begins tomorrow. We'll take a break. We told you about the new guys. We told you about the guys exiting. We have incumbents re-signing. We need to do that next. All right, let's tell you about FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. Well, from early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits my read. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Then you can apply the profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. All right, folks, head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. Play your game. Again, head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. Play your game. All right, we are back on the New York Giants Squad Show. Patricia, Mark, and Jay. Jermaine Eluemunor. I wasn't sure about this one, and this is not the first time he's been through free agency. Of course, he's a little bit older. But Patricia, 3 years, $39 million, gets to stabilize the right side of that offensive line. Pretty good deal for both sides.
Yeah, he got I think it's a $6 million APY raise. Not too bad. I'll take that, immediately. But yeah, it was kind of important, I think, to try and keep him and Andrew Thomas together. This is the best set of tackles this Giants team has had in quite some time. I mean, the best right tackle that they certainly have had since, I think you can go back to Kareem McKenzie when he was on the Giants. And I think on the left side, they had David Deal at the time. So, now this creates a situation to where, all right, you've got your starting tackles in Andrew Thomas and Jermaine Eluemunor, and now Marcus Bowe, who didn't play that badly when pressed into action, but he needs to, add some weight, some muscle and whatnot. He's a guy now that you can have as your swing tackle. And now you don't really have to worry about the tackle position. You can, you can pick up an undrafted free agent, develop him on the practice squad, but your tackle spot is pretty much set. So it's one less worry, and it's a big worry for a lot of teams, because a lot of teams really don't have two good tackles, and it's one less that the Giants have to worry about.
Well, I thought he would have got released because I thought he aged out. That's what I was thinking. This was a surprise to me that he got paid and got retained and got a good pay raise. So I think it's great. He wants some stability up there. He knows how to play. Been there for a while. He knows the situation. So yeah, I was just shocked that that he resigned. They resigned him, and for the simple reason, because he's older. But with age comes experience, and I guess John likes that, and I like it too.
Yeah, it's interesting. As we said, this is not the first time he's been through free agency, and there were some suggestions that perhaps he didn't get what we all thought he was going to get. Hey, bonus for the Giants because he's a good player, and they didn't have to overpay him, Patricia.
No, they didn't. And, look, Jermaine wanted to be here. Ever since he's come here, he's talked about how he couldn't wait to put on the uniform and the helmet. He's been very, fan friendly. So he's endeared himself to the fan base. Just a great fit. And I thought, there might be a small possibility he might want to go with Carmen Priscilla. But quite honestly, I mean, the Titans have, I think it's J.C. Latham, a first-round pick at right tackle, and they weren't about to move him inside. So it really wasn't going to work out, even if he wanted to go and be with Carm. But I think Jermaine Eluemunor has reached a point now in his career where, he can stand on his own 2 feet. And he credits Carm and Priscilla a lot for helping him, become the type of offensive lineman he is. And, no question about it. But now he's got a new offensive line coach. And Jermaine has now, I think, proven that he can stand on his own 2 feet. And he'll just continue to work to get better because he is a hard worker. He's never really satisfied with what he does. And he's everything you can want in the locker room.
Well, what really counts is the team still likes him. The new coaching staff likes him. He's got a job. He's got a position. He's happy. So that's all that counts. And I think hopefully he'll do well, even better than last year, and adapts to the new system and new coaching staff. I think he'll be just fine.
All right, next is Isaiah Hodgins, who, of course, was nothing great. But things have changed in the receiving core. Obviously, Wan'Dale, and we'll get to him next block. Wan'Dale's gone. So the Giants obviously needed to strengthen the receiving core, the depth of the receiving core. Patricia, give us a little on Isaiah Hodgins.
Yeah, Isaiah Hodgins is interesting. He's not really somebody to give you anything on special teams, but in keeping with the theme of bigger slot receivers, he gives you an option there. And while I think Isaiah likely is probably going to be the main dude in the slot position, if you want to change it up and you want to put Isaiah Hodgins in there, like let's say you're in your own territory and you need somebody who can maybe run and stretch the field a little bit more, maybe you go with a big receiver like Isaiah Hodgins. And oh, by the way, I had a benefit of Isaiah Hodgins. He's a pretty good downfield blocker. I mean, I think he was one of the best downfield blockers the Giants had on the roster last year. So there are definitely benefits to having him back on the roster.
Well, yeah, if he get production catching the damn ball, yeah. That's what it's all about. I mean, being a downfield blocker has this plus size, but it pay you to catch. and if you're not catching the ball, yeah, why get out there? Here's where I don't really see him as a big slot receivers, because big slot receivers don't work. It's the smaller, shifty guys who work in the slot. Yeah, you can move likely in and out, but he's going to most likely be covered by a safety or a linebacker. So that's why he gets away with a lot of stuff. You put a big receiver in there, and you put a corner on that big receiver. Big receivers can't move in space in the slot. They're not good at it. So, though he's a receiver, I'm not. It's not a big wow factor to hear his name. To me, I'm gonna call him as I said. To me, he's practice fodder. He's just a guy. There's no wow factor what I've seen him. So I'm glad he's got a 1-year deal as well. So he has a year to prove himself to get a bigger deal with the Giants or somewhere else.
Yeah, all the reason to play hard. Okay, there's a couple of other ones that got re-signed. Gunner Olszewski, Micah McFadden was earlier today. Devin Singletary's deal got reworked, and I think we were all surprised considering we talked about Kenneth Walker and drafting Jeremiah Love. I mean, obviously that's not on the table anymore with Singletary returning, but we'll take them in order here. Let's start with Gunner Olszewski, Patricia.
I mean, punt return, kick return specialist. That's his role. Mm-hmm. Now, when he had to fill in for Wan'Dale Robinson at the end of the year in the slot, he just so happened to have a 100-yard game. Is that something that, maybe he could deliver week in and week out? Probably not. I mean, not with Malik Neighbors coming back, not with Theo Johnson, and now Isaiah likely to, get all the targets there. But what Gunner Olszewski brought to the table was ball security on special teams. And that is the number one thing. You ask any special teams coordinator, what do you want out of your punt returner or your kickoff returner? They're all going to tell you the same thing, ball security. And that's what Gunner brought. And also, he was productive in that role. Not, he didn't lead the league, but he also wasn't at the bottom. He was kind of in the middle there. And he did have the one, kickoff return for a touchdown, I think, or not a kick. I'm sorry. A couple of years ago, I think he had a return for a touchdown. Might have been a punt, but he can, get loose and break free. So I like the move.
He reminds me of Phil McConkey. he secures the ball. He just catch the damn ball. He's very good at that. You don't have to break 15 to 30-yard runs on the return all the time. That's fine. Possess the ball, get the ball. Let's go from there. I like the signing. I think he's another 1-year contract as well. I think I'm pretty sure, but I like it. Cool, great. As long as you catch the ball, don't fumble it. We're good. We're good.
All right, let's do Devin Singletary, as we said. And there were rumors at the time. I don't think any of us took them super seriously, but obviously there was Kenneth Walker, who goes to the Chiefs. Jeremiah Love, who's going to get drafted. I don't think we assume by the Giants. But again, Devin Singletary gets a reworked deal. I don't think any of us, Patricia, expected him to come back.
I know I didn't. But that being said, when I went and I dug into, his production, I could see why they brought him back. He's good in pass pro, probably the best running back they have on the roster right now in pass pro. And oh, by the way, he's also the top short yardage back on the team. I mean, when you put the ball in his hands, and I think he led the Giants running backs in picking up first downs on runs that required at least 1 to 3 yards. So that was a positive. And yeah, also you can make the case that Devin Singletary is a good locker room presence, which, to some coaches, that's important. So all those factors combined, and look, Devin Singletary's not a dummy. He probably knows that if he doesn't take that pay cut, that he has to probably take a veteran minimum deal someplace. So he's got an opportunity to make some of that money back. He's got some incentives that were added to incentives that he already has. And you never know. You never know when an injury pops up. Now maybe you have to call on him a little bit more, and maybe he makes some of that money back. So it's a good deal for Singletary. It's a good deal for the Giants. I don't hate it, but I do think the Giants are still going to add to that running back room.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to add some more backs. As far as him taking the deal, yeah, smart. It's just business. The running back pool in this year's, whether draft or free agency, it is what it is. There's not a lot of people jumping around, a lot of people backs jumping around all over the place. So stay where you're at, take the pay cut, stay in New York, earn the respect of the new coaching staff. You might be playing somewhere else in the next 2 or 3 years, whatever it's going to be. Just get your carriage, do what you can do, and keep going.
I think Patricia nailed it in a recent show about Micah McFadden. 1 year, sort of a prove it kind of deal, and that's exactly what he got. That came down earlier today. So right up to the minute, Patricia, Micah McFadden coming back.
Yeah, I don't hate that one either. Micah McFadden was on his way to trying to get 3 straight seasons with 100+ tackles. And of course, he had that season-ending foot injury in week 1. Micah McFadden is a decent run defender. Coverage is another story, but he was a 2-down backer anyhow. I mean, when the Giants were in a passing situation, he came off the field because coverage was not his big thing. The one thing about Micah McFadden that continues to need to be cleaned up are the missed tackles. Sometimes he just takes poor angles, or he's a little, off by a tick or two in getting to the ball. And look, that's something that I guess gets cleaned up as the more reps you get. But in terms of, veteran leadership, again, he's another guy who can give you snaps on special teams. The inside linebacker depth was weak. Now they've added Tremaine Edmunds. They brought back Micah. Otherwise, you look at the rest of that inside linebacker depth and you say to yourself, it's not very exciting. And oh, by the way, this doesn't preclude them drafting Sonny Styles or Arvell Reese if they want to. They can still add a guy. So I like the signing. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't do that 4-year qualifying contract that would have given them more of a cap break. But I guess they felt, we'll just give Micah this opportunity to reset his market, and we won't, nickel and dime.
I was hoping to do a Bobby Okereke, be honest with you, but they like McFadden better. But, the decisions is a decision. I mean, he doesn't tackle well, but you're going to give him another shot coming off a broken foot, but you're going to give him a shot. I don't understand that, but I don't know. I don't have nothing to say about that. That's the league for you. That's just what they're going to do. That's what they want to do. They saw something in him maybe 2 years ago or whatever, film what, and they liked what they saw. But he's got 1 year to do something, and hopefully he shines.
All right, we have to take a final break. It's a 10-second break, real quick. When we return, obviously, we've referenced Wan'Dale a bunch, and he got paid. We'll discuss that coming up next. All right, we're back. Patricia, Mark, Jay, Wan'Dale got paid, and we knew he would, and we knew it wasn't going to be with the Giants, and most of us knew it was going to be with the Tennessee Titans, and true to form, Patricia, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Talk about a move that you could see coming from Pluto.
Mhm.
I mean, who didn't see that coming? Good for Wan'Dale. I mean, Wan'Dale is a good dude, worked hard. I've always admired how he came back from that devastating knee injury that in his rookie season. I don't begrudge a guy for getting paid. I mean, they've got such a small window, so why not get the money while you can? I just, the question I had when it came to the Giants was his production that we saw in 2025 sustainable? That was a result. He had the same amount of targets basically as he had the year before, maybe off by a couple, and he had the 1,000 yards. But, I just wonder, what happens now when Malik Neighbors comes back? What happens now when you add another receiver? Now you got Isaiah Likely being added. There's only so many passes to go around. And Wan'Dale, if you remember when he was drafted, a lot of people were like, why are the Giants drafting this guy? And the Giants kept saying, we've got a plan for him. And he had a very specific role in Brian Dable's offense. That role maybe doesn't exist in the Matt Nagy's offense. So that's why Wan'Dale is with the guy who drafted him or banged the table to draft him, and that's Brian Dable. So, I'm not surprised at what happened.
Yeah, we all agree. We knew he was going to go to Tennessee. I'm glad he had a great year, his last year with the Giants, so he could get paid like that. And honestly, it's more about just getting paid. It's about going to a place that really wants you. Tennessee wanted him. The Giants didn't. And sometimes, most times than not, you got to go to the people who want you. Why beg to stay up to a place when people don't want you? So he had a great year in New York his last year, very productive. And I don't care how he got it, injuries or whatever. The dude performed, he produced, and he got off. That was awesome. And for him to do that, he probably could have always done it. But I'm glad that somebody, Tennessee Dable, seen it, that given a chance, he can do this. And for the fruits of his labor from last year, he's going to Tennessee, and hopefully he plays well and does well down there. And in the meantime, he's got a lot of money in his pocket, in his bank account.
Speaking of, we didn't write this down, but it's got to be spoken about, and that's Tyler Linderbaum, who got a staggering amount of money. Now, as the days progressed before yesterday, we kind of assumed that wasn't going to happen. It happened for the Raiders, and my God, did he get a lot of money, Patricia?
Yeah, well, the Raiders got the money to spend,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to spend a certain percentage of your cap, which they have. So, look, the Raiders are going to welcome in a new quarterback. They're going to bring in Fernando Mendoza. So why not bring in the best center on the market? It just worked out for them. And I saw where the Raiders traded Geno Smith to back to the Jets. Kind of
Full circle.
Yeah, my reaction exactly, Mark. So I mean, look, teams that can afford the top of the line talent, good for them. The Giants, they weren't going to go there. And I think even if the Giants had a ton of money, there were bigger needs to address than center. John Michael Schmitz, a lot of people beat him up verbally and say, he stinks. He's not, he's nothing special. He's actually gotten a little bit better each year. Now, is he playing like, a number two, or I should say a second round draft pick? Maybe not quite, but he's been getting better and better. So like I said at the top of the show, you put better guards around him, see what you've got. Maybe, just maybe, he's going to ball out this year. The thing with John Michael Schmitz is he's got to stay on the field. He's yet to play a full season because of injury.
Yeah, your center position is on the offense is very, very key. They call the line stuff. They do all that stuff all the movements and shifts, they do it. So Linderbaum going to the Raiders, and they're going to get a quarterback in the first round, first pick. You better make sure do you have that anchor to get everything lined up correctly. And no, the Giants weren't going to spend a lot of money on him at all. That was my wishful thinking, but it didn't happen because you got Jackson Dart back there, and you want to make sure you protect him. But I think Smith will be all right. He'll be okay. We'll be all right. I'm not disappointed. But man, the Raiders paid a lot. They paid a lot for him, and we'll see how that works out.
I feel less bad. Not that I didn't want him, but when you see that kind of money, most teams were never going there. We're never going to touch it. So I don't know. Is it weird that it makes me feel less bad? I mean, I didn't feel bad to begin with, but generally speaking, less bad that he got so much money that really can't consider that a near miss, Patricia. I
mean, to me, the Giants need a backup center, not a starting center. Yeah. Who's their backup center now that Austin Schlottmann has moved to Tennessee? Would Tyler Linderbaum have been an upgrade? Absolutely. I don't want anybody to think that I don't think that. He absolutely would have been an upgrade. But, that's like me sitting here and saying, I wish I had, a Maserati or and a $15 million mansion in Princeton. You got to work within your means. And the Giants, they just couldn't afford the Maserati or the $15 million mansion, So you work within your means and you just hope that what you get is sufficient to accomplish what you need, which in this case, somebody to make the line calls. And look, John Michael Schmitz is a smart player. He's a technician. So you can get by with guys like that. I mean, I know people are going to jump on me for making this comparison, but Sean O'Hara was a technician and a very, very smart center. I mean, you couldn't pull anything on him. He knew he could diagnose things like that, so there's no reason to think that John Michael Schmitz can't become a poor man's Sean O'Hara, which if he can pull off, that heck, I'll take that.
Yeah. Sure. I would too. But plus, that center position wasn't a need for the Giants. It really wasn't. It was more of a want for me, basically, and maybe a couple other people. But it wasn't a glaring need. So I think the Giants will be fine in the offensive line. They'll be all right once the pieces start to gel and get together. But, was it a need? No, it was just more of, wishful thinking. Oh, you could get this person because he can pull and he can run and he's smart. He can do this, whatever. He's athletic. Yeah, but at the end of the day, he's still a center. So, and that's not what we need right now.
All right. Obviously, there are holes created from departures. This is a moving chessboard, if you will. In, out, back, forth, left, right, up, down, everything. So, Patricia, there are some, at least as of now, March 10th at 4:53 Eastern Daylight Time, roster holes created from these departures.
Yeah, but you know what? I think they'll start to fill some of those in maybe, in the second wave of free agency, which is going to start later in the week. There's always the draft too. I mean, if you see something not happening, like for example, let's say they don't touch receiver. Well, that should be a clear indication they're thinking draft. So there's plenty of time to fill some of these holes. Now, I say this every year, you're not going to fill every single hole on the roster. It just doesn't happen. You're going to have to make a sacrifice someplace. But if you could fill 99% of the holes you have, then you're ahead of the game.
And you're gonna get a few surprises as well. And I'm not talking just through the draft. There's going to be somebody who gets invited to camp as an undrafted free agent out of college, and you're going to say, how in the heck this guy get here? How they miss on this guy? There's always one of those guys who's going to show up like that. And there may be a 7th round pick as well. Some of those guys are, they show up, and they'll be your roster filling people. Just when you think you have holes to fill, and we'll fill that hole next time. And then that person shows up, you go, whoa, that's our guy. He fills that spot. And it's a wonderful thing when you see that in camp, and I've seen it many times. And I think it will happen again this year.
Obviously, free agency is hot and heavy, as we expected it to be, and eventually they'll transition to the draft. But Patricia, considering the way things have gone so far, and obviously they can change and most likely will, how will free agency affect the draft plans? Obviously, we've talked about picking Love at number 5. We've talked about Styles. We've talked about the receiver from Ohio State. All of it is on the board.
I don't think it'll affect the draft as much as maybe people think it will. Like, for example, they added Tremaine Edmunds. They brought back Micah McFadden. So people are saying, oh, well, that means, the Giants won't get a linebacker. The draft, you got to remember, this is for the future. It's not just for this year. It's for the future. Your first round pick, you're going to have for 5 years, assuming everything works out. So I don't think you can say that any position is off the board other than maybe quarterback. In quarterback, you can add a developmental guy after the draft. But, they say best player available, but it has to be a need. And I still say that, that's the part they don't say. Best player available at a need. Those are the 3 words that are missing. I expect the Giants to continue adding depth. And look, competition's good. You want to add that competition. You want to see what works out. Because, look, if you could save on a rookie deal at a position of need and trim a guy who's maybe on a veteran minimum, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, I agree. I just see what they've done on day 2, going defense, trying to show up the run, stop the run. Got some secondary people. Then on offense, you got Likely, a tight end. They might go offense. I mean, you get another receiver, then they got something. But like I said before, to build defense through free agency is very easy to do. You plug in some pieces, which they've done this year so far. Guys who can play now and be very productive now. And then you draft offensive players, give them a year or 2 under their belt so they get a good 4 or 5 year run running that offense. You got something there. So far, I just see them going offense first in the draft.
It's funny, Mark, you've been beating that drum. I'm tempted with that receiver. Now, obviously, it is not a position of need. So at 5, you're less likely to do that. But, man, I'm tempted to see the receiver on the other side of Neighbors. That would be special, Patricia.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they do there as well. But, again, if the Giants are going to go more to 12 personnel, then the need for 3 receivers and 4 receivers is probably going to be diminished. So, could they go receiver at number 5? Absolutely. Would I hate it if they did it? No, I wouldn't. But I still think it's going to be a defensive-oriented draft. And right now, if it's not Sonny Styles, if he's not on the board, who knows? Maybe they go Caleb Downs. They haven't really touched the safety spot a whole lot. I mean, I know Adarius Washington can play safety, but maybe you want to upgrade there because, what do you have in Tyler Nubin? Can you be confident that he's going to bounce back from last year and be the guy that you think he can be?
I just seen Neighbors. I mean, I've seen what Harbaugh did in Baltimore. Always has speed receivers. I've seen what Nagy did in Kansas City. Always has speed receivers. Not just one. They got 2 or 3. I just see that offense being like the Giants, being what they did in Baltimore and in Kansas City. The more weapons you got on offense, and now you got a hell of a tight end, you're going to get a receiver. You're going to get some speed. That's what they need.
Interesting. All right, let's tie a ribbon on this one. Patricia, you're up first. We talked about CEO and this new regime and new era that John Harbaugh has ushered in here, and it's only been a couple of months, but through the first day and a half of free agency, I would say that this is going pretty well so far.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're addressing needs, but you know what? They don't hand out trophies in March. I mean, how many times, have the Eagles or the Commanders, or Dallas, we've had a great, off season. And then what happens? It's at the end of the day, what do you do with it on the field? So I'm encouraged. I'm excited by some of the additions, but let's get them on the field. Let's see how they're going to be deployed. and how they're going to look and how this is all going to come together. I mean, the pieces are there. They've just got to put everything together to make a nice, pretty picture that Giant fans are going to enjoy looking at every Sunday.
I like the methodical moves that he's made so far. No big splash, wow, and overbidding for this, whatever. Nice, methodical. Piece here, a piece there, piece. Okay, cool. I like that. No big fanfare, none of that stuff. Just methodically moving down the track. I like it, and hopefully he'll progress to do more, and we'll be okay.
All right, that's a wrap. First 2 days of free agency was pretty exciting. Now, as for Thursday's show, of course, we normally start at 1 Eastern time. It'll be a little later on Thursday because we expect these new Giants to speak to the media at some point during the middle of the day on Thursday. We'd love to get their reaction first and then bring it to you afterwards. So we'll let you know, of course, keep it locked to Twitter, and we'll let you know exactly when the show will go down on Thursday. For Patricia and Mark, I'm Jay. Let's go Giants, and we'll see you in about 48.